Sorry guys. We don't have an intro yet, but it's coming in the next video.
It's coming.
See ya.
Stay tuned.
Welcome to our first video. What are we talking today about?
So today we're going to talk about how to manage your cash flow and avoid the biggest mistakes that most Amazon sellers do.
Including myself.
And myself. We were all guilty of making mistakes. It's part of the process, but hopefully you can learn from our mistakes and avoid them.
Before we do, we'd like to give you a little bit of a background so you don't think we're scammers and making 8 figures a year and then Photoshop the numbers.
I don't know about you, but...
Julian, you wanna start?
Yeah, so I basically been selling in Amazon in that space for about 2.5 to 3 years roughly. I started off working with an established company, bringing their brand into the Amazon space and really growth hacking into a big business online. Since I've started my own Amazon business, and I continue to consult and help others do the same thing.
Awesome, short and sweet. I like it.
Short and sweet.
Well, guys, soon I'll be start selling on Amazon. Actually, I have my first product on its way to the Amazon warehouses and also to coming to Canada, because actually we're from Canada and we're from Montreal. If you're not from Montreal, go to another channel. I'm just kidding. Throughout the process, what I've been learning, all the steps on how to sell on Amazon and everything, I find out actually that by giving advices and helping others, it actually helps me improve my skills. So basically by teaching, it helps me improve myself, and also while I'm sharing a lot of information, or I will be sharing a lot of information with you guys. That's pretty much it. I'll also keep you updated because I have some very interesting stories related to the supplier that I actually went with. It was a pretty rocky beginning.
Yeah, so we're going to give you guys some pointers on what to avoid to put your cash flow in jeopardy, which, like I said, we're both guilty of having done those things, and I'm sure many people can also relate.
Well, especially at the beginning, right? Because not a lot of people out there are willing to tell you or walk you through all the processes. I mean, they can give you like general advices, but nobody is in your situation, right? So you come across obstacles or various things, and well, things happen and you lose money.
Let's start with where you get your money. What would you recommend? Like, what's the best way to start? I mean, a lot of people start this business and they don't have that much to go with. They're maybe starting with a couple $100.
Right.
Maybe they have a couple thousand. You know, what are some options that you can explore with funding the business?
Well, I can give you my personal situation where, not to brag or anything, but I'm also just a pilot student, and that school actually cost me around
That's a brag.
That's a brag, no. Just plug it there. I do like site flying on the side. You know, I have to reimburse that money on a period of 10 years anyway, besides the story. But one day I came across this opportunity of selling on Amazon, and especially FBA. Because I mean, let's face it, you have so many opportunities, right? You have retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, since you're watching this, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with all the type of ways you can sell on Amazon. So I actually went to my branch, to my local bank, and I asked for a line of credit, and surprisingly they gave me one. Although I was in debt for 70K, 70 something ish, they still give me some money. So I took that money, managed it. Unfortunately, I kind of spent $10,000 off of it on I don't know what, but I still have some left. So I invested that money. So that could be one option, going to your local branch and ask for a line of credit. If not, as Gary Vee says, hustle. I don't know, sell yeah. I don't know, sell super glue, sell whatever you want.
Yeah, for sure.
You can start from the bottom, right? And
yeah, you might want to start with retail arbitrage to fund eventually your own private label business. So get creative. You know, if you don't have the funding, there are plenty of ways to make that money. Get an extra job or whatever you need to do to get that cash flow,
yeah, I mean,
so you can get started. Something that a lot of people don't explore, but within your country and potentially your wherever you live. Like there's often grants that are given for people who are starting a business. If you write a good business plan and you can kind of prove that you're trying to start something that will help the local economy.
And it's funny because we have a few here in Montreal, right? Especially in
Sure,
Quebec.
yeah. There's definitely.
If you guys are interested, please leave us a comment and let us know if you guys want to have some information about that.
Yeah. So the next thing to talk about is how to really properly plan out your profit of your product. So there's something called a P&L, or otherwise known as a profit and loss statement. It's very important that you do this because many people will look at what their cost is. Maybe they'll know to look at the landed cost in Amazon, which basically means the cost from basically getting it from your supplier all the way to the Amazon warehouse. So you're talking about obviously the manufacturing costs, any insurance costs, inspection costs, shipping costs, customs, and so forth. But then there are a whole bunch of other costs that you need to factor in. Obviously, there's your fulfillment fees.
Oh, there's a lot of fees actually if you think
so
about
it. that goes without saying. But you don't stop there, right? If you really want to know what you're going to net out of your product, factor in that you're going to have a certain percentage of returns.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's good that you mentioned that because nobody talks about returns, right?
Right, exactly, and and I hadn't thought of that myself, and I have to have a product that has a high amount of returns because it's an electronic product, so it comes with its own set of challenges in the return department. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind that you're going to need a budget for marketing, right? So your advertising is not free, so budget it into your profit and loss statement.
Just a quick tip before we go on. Amazon loves external traffic. Mm-hmm. They do love that. So I mean, as you were saying about marketing, there's so many things out there. You can do Facebook, you can do Instagram, you can do both if you want. And PPC, you can have your website, or you can have a landing page. You can have so many things.
Mm-hmm. You can work with influencers too.
Have
blogs and places where they can help you get external traffic. But all of these things either cost money or time. And more often than not, they cost money. So just factor it in. Think about your returns. Think about also the fact that you're going to want to do promotions, right? Not everything is going to take off right away, so you might have to incentivize people with a 5% off, 10% off. That adds up. So keep that in mind, and stay focused on your profits. But to that point, being overly focused on your profits, not always a good thing, right, Paul?
I totally agree, because you have so many expenses before you come to profits. Well, depending on which country you're selling from. Obviously, I mean, if you're in the States, you have to apply for sales taxes and all that kind of stuff. Here in Canada, we're a little bit luckier. It's funny because my supplier just contacted me. But what was I saying?
Yeah, so
we're talking about being too focused on profits.
Not looking at the long term.
One rule that I think we kind of both live by, it's the 90-day rule. Mm-hmm. In which case, for 90 days, don't focus on profit, just focus on getting that initial sales and getting that momentum. And then later on, when you're going to have, or when you will be building some, like a better ranking, and I don't know, you coming up on the first, second, or third page, then you can focus on profits. But especially at the beginning, until you get your reviews, until you get to the first page, until so many other things, forget about profits.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that being said, I wouldn't say don't try to be profitable, but at the very least, think about the fact that your profits are going to be lower at the beginning because you got your launch costs, right? So
it's better to sacrifice your profits at the beginning and to get momentum faster.
Especially during Q4. So if that happens to be when you launch or close to your launch period, then for sure, go big or go home. I'm not saying like go for broke, but keep in mind that everybody else is trying to do something similar. You need to stand out, so apply pressure at the beginning, especially that's when it's the most important for you to take off. Now that being said, again, like I'm gonna take a step back here, going back and forth between spending money and not spending money. But the other thing is planning for your reorder, right? So
Yes.
a lot of people think,
Yes.
okay, well, my first order is gonna fund my next order. It's not always the case. When I started, I ordered a pretty small 50-unit order.
We're cheap at the beginning.
I was cheap, yeah. Hey, you got to be cheap at the beginning if you.
Well, I mean, if the supplier allows it, then
if the supplier allows it. So I was lucky enough to get a small order of 50 units, which was very rare, by the way. But if you can get a smaller order, that's great because you can test.
Good coffee, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, excellent coffee. Roasted by the best.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Especially because let's say it's an amazing product that you came across. Your first, let's say, month, you're selling out, or that would be ideal. Which happens.
Which is what happened to me actually.
Yeah.
Within the first month and a half, and it happened to be during Q4, I sold out. Now the reason why I could tell you plan for your reorder is that despite the fact that I sold out and I was making profits, even with my launch costs, I was able to still earn a profit. But it takes a while before Amazon pays you, right? And
well, approximately 4 weeks.
approximately 4 weeks, and 4 weeks in retail is a long time.
It is.
So by the time that time runs out, and it takes time to get that money in the account and everything, once you get to that point, well, you've potentially already run out of product, and maybe with the lead time that you have with your supplier, you don't have enough time to restock before you run out, which is what happened to me. So I was stuck without inventory for several months after that period.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite something.
So you really got to plan for that and understand that you need a separate budget for your reorder, and you shouldn't be depending on your sales to finance that order. Unless your first order happens to be like hundreds of units or 1,000 units, it might be okay. Small orders though, just keep in mind you're going to need to plan for that second order very quickly.
Well, guys, I'm just going to give you like a quick insight of what happened. Actually, in my case, I found a product that I wanted to do for about a year, and I actually decided to do it. And I found this supplier, and ever since the beginning was a little bit sketchy. I mean, they didn't want to send me the certificates, which I think it was pretty odd, right? Mm-hmm. Eventually they did. So I decided to place the order anyway. I booked an inspection, and it's funny because also this is related to cash flow and managing the money that you're investing. I went with AJ inspection, and I think it was like close to like $440 because it was like a last minute booking. Anyway, I booked it. Everything went great up until I received the report, and I received a huge list with failed, factory failed to provide, and most of the products were scratched or misassembled and all that. So I was like, what the hell is going on? A good thing, and make it a very good practice, it's write a very good contract, and especially look into the Chinese laws. I made it very clear to the supplier that we're gonna go through arbitrary method instead of the court method. Because if you go through courts in China, it's gonna cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and trust me, it's not worth it. So if you go through arbitrary method, you just fix it among yourselves. One thing that I'm pretty sure, and I haven't seen anyone talking about, actually I only saw one person, I don't remember who it was, but I only saw one person. It's Article 115, if I'm not mistaken, which states that after paying the initial payment, both parties have to respect the contract. But let's say if you, as a buyer, fail to respect the contract, or you breach the contract, you lose your initial payment. But what happens? Really, but I'll tell you something even more interesting. What happens if the supplier breached the contract? What happens in that case? It's as per Chinese law, they're supposed to refund you twice the initial payment that you actually paid. So it's funny because I came across that and I said, wow, that's pretty interesting. And I think that was our lighting that on the back. Anyway,
you should probably tape it.
Yeah, it's fine. I received the inspection file, and I asked the supplier. I said, "Well, listen, we have a contract. what's going to happen. And one thing that I forgot to mention is in the contract I mentioned that for the production time they told me it was 10 days, right? So I put 10 days, and I said if it exceeds by 5 days, I'm requiring a 20% discount, and if it exceeds by another 5 days, passing those 5 days, an additional 30% discount. So anyway, the production exceeded by I think like a week. So I said, well, I'm requiring a 50% discount, and say, well, listen, we really want to build a long-lasting business relationship with you. We apologize for that. It was our fault and everything. So listen, honestly, I really want to work with them, right?
Contract. That's good.
Yeah, it was, and I'm gonna put a template. I don't know if it's gonna be into this video or if I'm gonna be doing it on that one. But anyway, this is just an interesting story that I wanted to share with you guys.
So definitely the lesson to be learned there is always do your due diligence before placing an order, because something like, you know, cheaping out and not paying for an inspection can end up costing you a lot of money later on. So just make sure that you spend the money on what's important, and definitely, you know, be intelligent with your cash flow, because it is the number one thing that slows you down in this business.
And just to add a little bit to my story, I actually only tested 10% out of the whole number of units, and actually more than 30% were defective or scratched, or they had dirt marks, or they were misassembled. So just do your due diligence, and definitely save some money for that inspection. We came to an agreement where the supplier, because they knew actually they had to reimburse me twice the amount of money, they told me that they're gonna pay for the second inspection. So I said, well, listen, if they're willing to do that, it means that they're really trying to fix the issue there. So anyway, we'll do another video from about suppliers and myths and strategies, and definitely follow up on it, because I actually just received a text message because I had my re-inspection yesterday. So anyway,
hopefully it was good news.
Yeah, hopefully it was good news. So thank you for coming, guys.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about it. I mean, it was just like
if you guys have other questions too, you, let's say, are, you know, you have concerns about being, you know, Canadian seller like us selling in the U.S. or...
We're definitely going to do a video.
For sure, yeah. We'll talk about that. We've got a lot of content planned for you guys.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Subscribe, ask your questions below, give us some ideas to run with, and...
I promise you, if you subscribe, Julian's going to take his shirt off on the next video. That's what he said before.
There's a contract. It's a Chinese law. You can't
it's the new Chinese law.
Yeah.
It's under Article 112.
Yeah.
So,
anyway.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was just like an overview of what's about to come up. Please like it, share it, and let us in the comment section below if you guys want us to talk about any specific subjects or any other subjects. Until next time,
keep dripping.
Keep dripping. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.